Sports betting essentially has its own language, and this can trip a lot of people up, especially if you're new to gambling. But that's why I'm here. Think of this as your betting jargon 101. Okay, let's start at the very beginning with the word bet or betting. This means to gamble or risk something of value against an unknown outcome. You probably say something like, "Oh, I bet you can't do this," all the time because you know the outcome of the bet already. So let's put it with an example. I bet that Leicester will beat Manchester City by 5 goals or more this weekend. I know what you're thinking. Crazy, right? That leads me to the next word, odds. Odds are the numbers that we use to work out the value of a bet. For example, 3 to 1, and this gives you an indication of the probability of a particular outcome. Odds are created by experts called traders, and they rely on computer algorithms to set prices on odds. The phrase odds on means that the event is more likely to happen than not. This is where you would see the first number of the odds being smaller than the second number. For example, 1 to 6 odds means something is very likely to happen, but 6 to 1 is not so likely. A wager or a stake are essentially the same thing. They both mean the amount of money that is risked. For example, if you were to put down a £50 wager or a £50 stake, it means that you deposited the amount of £50 on a bet. Next up, we have the accumulator, or sometimes you hear it called an ACCA. Think of this as an all-or-nothing type of bet. Now, when I say that, I don't mean to bet a high amount of cash. I mean, it's a big bet to make. Let me talk you through it. Say, for example, you're feeling confident about a few events. You can combine 4 or more of these events into one bet, and the odds from each selection multiply together, giving you a chance for a much bigger win than 4 single bets. What's the catch? Well, every one of your picks needs to win for you to cash out. So here's your example. Stay with me, because once you get it, it's really easy. Your ACCA could look like this. Nottingham Forest to beat Arsenal at 3 to 1, Southampton to defeat Liverpool at 4 to 1, Crystal Palace to defeat Aston Villa at 3 to 1, and Spurs to draw with West Ham at 7 to 2. Let's say your stake is £10 on an accumulator. If all your predictions come true, you could take home £3,600. But how? Well, with a stake of £10, your initial stake return on Nottingham Forest to beat Arsenal would see you up £40. £30 winnings and your £10 bet. Southampton to defeat Liverpool would bring you a total of £200, £160 winning plus the £40 from your winnings of the first bet. Do you see how it works? This £200 goes into Crystal Palace to beat Aston Villa, which would then become £800. And the last leg of your accumulator, the nail biter. If all your other selections have gone your way, everything is riding on this last game. Spurs to draw with West Ham at 7 to 2, with your accumulator returning you a total of £3,600 from an initial £10 stake. But of course, if any of these games don't finish as you predicted, then do you see why I called it an all-or-nothing type of bet? Other phrases you'll hear are a double, which is a bet of 2 selections, a treble, which is 3. A 4-fold accumulator is a bet of 4 selections, and the same principle applies with a 5-fold, 6-fold, 7-fold, 8-fold. They're all quite big bets, so if you want something that's a little less risky, an each-way bet might be your thing. Let's take golf as our example, and we're looking at the Masters. By placing an each-way bet, you're placing 2 bets in one. Now, the first part of the bet is for a player, say, Rory McIlroy, to win, and the second part of the bet is for him to place, meaning that they finished within the top 2, 3, or even 4 spots. A horse racing betting phrase that you might see is nap, and no, it's not to have a little afternoon siesta. In this context, it's where someone will be referring to their nap of the day, and that generally means that somebody's talking about their best selection of the day. So if you see a tipster recommending their nap, it might be worth having a closer look. A really fun group type of bets is what we call a betting pool, and it's something you'll see a lot more of over big tournaments like the World Cup. Now, the easiest way to describe it is, imagine there's a group of people and they all write their name, the team or athlete they're betting on, and the amount of money they're putting in. The people who picked the winner will take a percentage of the total amount of money put in, depending on how much money they originally put down. Arbitrage is where gamblers aim to make a profit on all possible outcomes of an event at different odds. To put it simply, it means taking advantage of the variations in odds offered by different bookies and calculating a stake level that ensures any losses are covered by winnings in all potential outcomes. This is quite a complicated and high effort type of bet, and I'd recommend only an expert or experienced gamblers to attempt that. Okay, a handicap bet is really popular in sports betting, especially in football. Think of it as giving one team a virtual head start in terms of goals and points. For example, if Manchester City are playing against a much weaker team, the bookmaker might offer a -1 handicap on them, meaning City would need to win by more than 1 goal for your bet to win. Or you could play the other way. You could bet on the underdog with a +1 handicap, meaning they'll only need to draw for your bets to play out. In-play betting is another phrase you'll see a lot, and it's placing a bet once an event has already started. Let's say, for example, you're watching an event and you notice something happening in the field or a pattern emerging. For example, strong set pieces, a weaker substitution, or the same assist and goal attempt setup. If you spot something happening before the bookies have adjusted their odds accordingly, you could be in for a big win. And a closing line is when the odds won't change, they've been locked in. Before this, odds can be adjusted according to the number of wagers being put down. To lay a bet means to back something not to happen. So to win, your selection would either have to lose or draw. Alongside this, you'll probably see long odds and short odds. Long odds mean a poor chance of winning, and short odds mean there's a pretty good chance. So a quick recap, because I know that's a lot of jargon to take in. We've covered betting, odds, stakes and wagers, accumulators, each way bets, NAP, betting pool, arbitrage, handicap, in-play betting, layer bet, long odds, and short odds. And now I have no doubt that you'll be placing your bets with confidence now that you know all the key jargon that goes hand in hand with betting.